Well, there it is. Our first intro with the new graphic. Shout out to Bo Pentecost, our guy, with our graphics for making this the first official episode of Hotty Toddy Talk. You see it up there in the corner of your screen. Ole Miss Sports Talk with Austin and Nick. That's us. We're back. Yeah. We're back with you, but this time we're officially Hotty Toddy Talk. We could not be more excited to continue to make this show better for all of you, and it's going to be great. We're going to keep on making it better, keep on doing new things, hopefully adding more to the show as we go along. Obviously, you'll see this graphic is baseball specific, but don't worry. We're going to be doing more than just baseball. We plan on making this a regular part of your week, every week, all throughout the year for all the sports. Maybe not all the sports, but most of the sports at least. We're going to try to keep up as best we can with everything going on, at least the big sports for sure. And we'll go from there. But Nick, hey, we talked about it on the last show. We were hoping we'd come back here today with a 2-0 midweek, and that's exactly what we got. And my goodness, has the offense been hot for Ole Miss in the last week?
Oh yeah, it's been good to see. After the last two games against High Point, them to keep swinging the bats. And we talked about it last time. 2 games, and it was important. Not to keep swinging the bat, but I think pitching was okay. You got some guys some work they needed, but yeah, just been swinging the bats really well. And I think the lineup has beginning to shape itself up. At least that top 4 or 5 guys have proven they're worth a shot every day.
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, the average is up to 263 for the team for Ole Miss. Coming into the weekend against High Point, it was 181. So that tells you how far they've come in the last 4 games. Obviously, the Friday night game against High Point did not help their cause any. But then Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, my goodness, an explosion. Ole Miss has scored 61 runs over their last 4 games. And that with, of course, 12 on Saturday, 12 on Tuesday, 12 on Wednesday. They sandwiched in 25 on Sunday just for kicks. Yeah,
a casual 25.
It's a casual, your normal everyday football score plus 3 touchdowns plus a few points.
Right.
What I don't know. There's no word for 5 points in football, so you just have to play. You just have to say 3 touchdowns plus a few points. Safety and a field goal. There you go. 3 touchdowns, a safety, and a field goal on Sunday. Had to think about that for a second. Football season's it's getting hyped up already by social media for sure. We still got a ways to go though. They were, of course, releasing the media days schedule today, or at least the days for the coaches, not the official schedule. So that's exciting. We're not there yet, though. We're here to focus on baseball. Tough test coming up this weekend. Now, of course, we'll briefly look at Tuesday and Wednesday. Obviously, great games offensively on Tuesday and Wednesday for Ole Miss. 12 runs in both those games. Little Rock gave them a little run for their money early on. It was a 12-6 game. It was a home run derby in Oxford on Tuesday night. The weather was much nicer Tuesday than it was Wednesday. Both teams hit 4 home runs. It was a home run derby.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, it's funny because I was still at work at the time and I was getting notifications left and right, home run, home run, home run. So it's nice when your team's hitting them, but you kind of get worried when the other team's hitting them too. But thankfully we had enough to, squeak that one out. But there for a while, it was a close game, and there late in the game, we kind of took off on them. But it was good to see that.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to nitpick and find something you're not super keen about from the Tuesday, Wednesday games, it would be that there were a lot of high fly balls and a lot of home runs hit, especially on Tuesday by the opposition. So the Ole Miss pitching was giving up a lot of hard hit balls. So if you had to nitpick about something, that's probably what you would nitpick. However, it was a warm night Tuesday. The ball was flying. The wind was blowing out to the outfield as well. Opposite on Wednesday night, it was blowing back in, as opposed to Tuesday night, it was blowing out. So that was very helpful for both teams. So you're not going to nitpick that too bad. And in the end, Ole Miss still got it done, and their pitching staff took care of business when they needed to, even though once they took the lead, they never lost the lead. It was just a close game. Obviously, Little Rock made it a close game a couple of times. And then Ole Miss took control. Last year against Little Rock, Ole Miss also scored 12 runs. It was just a much closer game. It was 12-10. Little Rock almost pulled the upset last season. This time 12-6. Wednesday night, a much different ball game. It was cold out. Obviously not a huge crowd at Swayze Field. Most of them were getting ready for the big basketball game that was coming up against Alabama that happened last night. That did not go so well for the Rebels, unfortunately, in the second half. That's how it happens. Sometimes you play a really good team like Alabama. But the baseball team did their job on Wednesday night. Great start on the mound as well for Ole Miss on Wednesday. And then the bullpen used a lot of pitchers Wednesday. They did their job. Missouri State actually jumped out of the 2-0 lead early after a walk and a missed or a wild pitch. Some things happened. But Ole Miss did a great job of settling down, taking care of business, jumping out in front. And once they jumped out in front, they scored 4 runs in the inning to take the 4-2 lead. They never looked back.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest takeaway last night, if you want to nitpick and kind of, pick out little things, I thought Trayson Hughes, it was good to see him get 3 base knocks. Kind of get him going on a weekend where we're going to need probably at least, outside the starting 9 hitters, probably 10 or 11 guys, off the bench to really get to the Iowa arms. But yeah, good to see him get going. A guy that, we've known what he has done at Mercer. We know he can hit. We know he can play defense. We've seen that. So to get him swinging the bat and have some quality at bats was good to see him, get a little confidence boost coming into a big weekend.
Yeah, 100%. 3 for 5 with, of course, a big 2-run single in the 8th that made it 12-3. He almost walked it off run rule style. Had he been able to get 1 extra base out of that, it would have been a run rule walk-off, 13-3. Ole Miss actually did have the winning run in the 8th inning at third base. Didn't get it in, but it didn't matter. They were able to shut it down in the 9th inning. And it was really good to see Mason Nichols and Josh Mallett both come out there and do well as well late in that game. I was kind of questioning why we were using them at first. But then you realize it's probably like a bullpen session, kind of like Evie was telling us when we were talking about it. Most likely like a bullpen session like that. Mallett's came out there and very promptly got a strikeout. Side note, by the way, there's nothing better this season than listening to Josh Mallett's warm up to "Without Me" by Eminem. Just such a clutch song to pick for him after missing all of last season. Yeah. So pretty cool to see that. And he comes out there and gets a strikeout. Got in a little bit of trouble after that, but he was able to get out of it, no problems. After that. And then Mason Nichols, what a story he has been this year. True freshman last year. We saw him struggle a little bit in the late innings and with runners on last year. Boy, can you see the development this year that he's put in.
Yeah, he's really had a good start to the season. You mentioned, last year struggled a little bit. But it's good to see him come back to that pitcher that we saw in that 2022 Omaha run. And, although last night when he came in, that was Mouse came in. I think it was a 3-run game. And you have in mind at the same time, like you said, kind of a bullpen day they needed to throw. But at the same time, kind of at a point where you need to throw one of your better arms to keep this game, be able to put it away. So, good to see them get their work in and do good while just, kind of hate to say, just practicing because obviously they're in a game. But nonetheless, it was good to see them have success and 2 guys down the stretch that are going to be very important for the Ole Miss pitching staff.
Yeah, and before we move on from the pitching staff as well, I want to not overlook Cole Tolbert coming in. He only pitched a third of an inning last night, but he came in after Patrick Galley loaded the bases, comes in. Galley, by the way, he's going to be really good when he gets his control down. He's got some heat. Ole Miss is going to need that. When he finds his control, he's going to be a really needed and lethal arm out of the bullpen. But the bases got loaded on him. The inning got away from him a little bit, and Mike made the decision to move to Tolbert out of the bullpen. 3 pitches is all he needed to get the strikeout, the third out, and just a gutsy, clutch performance. And then he was immediately out of the game in the next inning. You did not see him again. So as Mike Bianco said in his postgame last night, that's one that might get lost in the box score a little bit, but not a more crucial moment really in that game than what Tolbert did in that 1/3 of an inning.
Yeah, I agree. Bases loaded, comes in and gets a big strikeout. It's kind of good that you can find out about guys, in these midweek games, pitch some guys that you maybe normally wouldn't pitch on the weekend, but, he shows you he can come in and get a big out and quick. Get the offense on the field and hitting. So, just like you said, and Mike said, that's going to get lost in the box score, and box score doesn't show you everything. And I also like to see the little bit of emotion he showed when he come off the mound. Guys got it. He's there to perform.
Yeah, he actually was walking off the mound and looked back at the third base umpire just to confirm that they did call it a swing, which it was a swing. Yeah. And then he showed the pump up in motion. So great to see that. Great Austin Simmons picking up his first win on the mound thanks to how the score worked out. So Simmons showing that he's got some game on the pitcher's mound just like he does on the football field. So good to see him developing as well. And let's not – and by the way, I don't want anybody to kid themselves. Little Rock. Wow, I almost blanked on the name on Tuesday night. Little Rock and Missouri State. It's Missouri State, by the way. There's nothing in front of Missouri. Just throwing that out there. But Missouri State and Little Rock are not slouches of programs. Missouri State has been coached by the same guy for 42 years, which is just insane. He's been to Omaha, I think, back in 03 is what they said. He made it to Omaha with them. But they are picked either number 1 or number 2. I think it might have been number 2 in their conference. They have several freshmen of the year possibilities on that roster. They've got some good arms and some good bats. And then Little Rock is another Missouri Valley team that is going to be another team to watch. They're not a slouch of a team. They came in here last year and almost upset the Rebels as well. And it's one of those things. They actually lead the series against Ole Miss, if I remember right. And they were undefeated in Oxford until Ole Miss won the game this week. And I may be getting those two backwards. It may have been Missouri State that way. One of the two teams was undefeated in Oxford. They haven't met that many times, obviously. So that's Missouri State. I apologize because Little Rock lost to Ole Miss in Oxford last year. So that's my mistake. But either way, these are not slouches of teams. These are good programs that Ole Miss beat in the midweek games. So obviously they won't get as much rap, so to speak, as beating in Iowa this weekend will. But very, very quality opponents in the midweek for Ole Miss, despite the names and the conferences they come from. All right, before we move into the weekend, that's where our main purpose of the show is, it is time to hear from two of our amazing sponsors. What's going on, guys? It's Austin with Hotty Toddy Talk and the Rebel Walk, here to tell you about two of our fantastic sponsors that are on board with us this season. You guys know the first one like the back of your hand by now, Dead Soxy and DeadSoxy.com. We love these guys, and you guys should too. If you're not wearing Dead Soxy socks by now, what are you waiting for? You can use the code REBELWALK anytime to get 25% off site-wide. Doesn't matter if Ole Miss wins or loses on the field, you get 25% off site-wide with the code Rebel Walk. And while you're there, check out their Ole Miss exclusive NIL socks to upgrade your socks and elevate Ole Miss. Support Ole Miss athletics and specific Ole Miss athletes with their NIL exclusive socks. Check them out at deadsoxy.com. And secondly, we're thrilled to have on board with us this year Rebel Closet. If you're looking to refresh your wardrobe, get Rebel ready for less with Rebel Closet at 914 Jackson Avenue East. It's the best kept shopping secret in Oxford. Give them a call, 662-912-0393 with any questions that you may have, or check them out on Instagram at rebelcloset_OX. Rebel Closet, get Rebel ready for less. And welcome back to Hotty Toddy Talk. Man, it's good to have that little intro graphic. It looks really good. Really excited about that. All right, moving on to this weekend, which is, of course, the purpose of this entire show. Iowa Hawkeyes coming into town. There have only been 7 meetings between Ole Miss and Iowa coming into this weekend. Ole Miss has a narrow edge, 4-3 in the series overall, but they have not played each other since way back in 1997. That's a long time ago, 24 years ago, in fact, is when that was. It makes 27 years ago. I apologize. 27 years ago.
26-ish, yeah. I was born in 97, so I'm 26.
I'm sorry. I can't do math tonight.
It's all good.
You guys know what I meant. 27 years ago, 100%. Yes, I know that 14 plus 7, 14 minus 7, whatever. 24 minus 7, 27. All that. We got it figured out, okay? We know that a long time ago. A lot of things have changed since then, including both of these rosters. And Ole Miss is looking to continue. They won that game back in 97, 11-6. And Ole Miss, of course, looking to continue the hot bats. But they are going to have a task in front of them this weekend if they want to keep the offense going. My goodness, this Iowa pitching staff, I did not really know much about them prior to doing my research for my preview article, which I wrote earlier today, and then doing my research for this show. This is not a slouch of a team. This will be Ole Miss's first really true look at an SEC caliber pitching staff. Particularly on Sunday. We'll get to him in just a minute. But we'll start with Friday's hurler, Brody Brecht. If you don't know who this guy is, you're going to know come Friday.
Real quick.
10.1 innings, 1.74 ERA, 22 strikeouts, only 10 walks. I say only 10. That seems like a lot of walks, but when you compare it to 22 strikeouts, it's really not all that many. He has not allowed a home run. None of the 3 starters have allowed a home run. He's only allowed 3 hits and 3 runs, and 2 of those runs were earned. So Brody Brecht, he's got some nasty stuff as well.
Yeah, like you said, if you don't know about Brody Brecht, you're gonna find out real quick. Of course, it'll be tomorrow. But yeah, before doing any research on Iowa, I knew about Brecht, knew about the velocity on the fastball, but did some more digging and found out, he's a top 20 college prospect in this upcoming draft. So he is a pro pitcher, to say the least. And like you said, that fastball gets up there, and he's got a really good slider. I think it sits lower 90s, 91, 92. And according to MLB.com, it's his best pitch. And they kind of compare him to a Paul Skeens with less control. You mentioned the 10 walks in 10 innings. So if you're the Ole Miss offense, you kind of, look at, okay, yeah, the velocity, the strikeouts. But, if you can put together some quality at bats, and make them throw some, prolonged at bats and see some pitches that you have a chance to get to him. So it'll be interesting to see him.
Yeah, and if you're Ole Miss, and the way they have been winning these games big is with patient at bats, and we've seen them when they are not patient at the plate is when they start to struggle offensively. If they are patient at the plate, I know that sounds very cliche to say, but you can literally see the difference in Ole Miss this season when they've swung at everything as opposed to waiting and making these pitchers throw strikes. That's what you're going to have to do Friday with Brecht, because if he starts working it past you and you start swinging at everything and you start losing your confidence, his movement and his speed are going to be bad enough for you to pick up on. You've got to wait and make him throw strikes. He's got a 90-plus mile-an-hour slider on top of his 97 to 100 fastball. Like you said, Nick, he is a top 20 prospect. He's going to be drafted in the upcoming Major League Baseball draft. This is a solid pitcher that is going to come out here, and he's going to be looking to come into Oxford. Iowa's 4-4 on the year. They've had a couple of upset losses against Wichita State, their most recent. They even lost to Lehigh, but they've also had some close ones against Virginia and Auburn, so two really good programs there. This is not a team that's going to be looking to lose a weekend series in Oxford. They're going to be looking to bounce back. They were picked first in the preseason Big Ten coaches poll. There's a reason for that. So this is a team you've got to get to early, and you want to get into their bullpen, and it's going to have to start on Friday because Gunnar Dennis going for Ole Miss, and that's a little bit of a switch up in the rotation. He's been really good, but we've also not seen any of the Ole Miss starters thus far make it very many innings, whereas Iowa's pitchers tend to make it into the fifth or sixth inning just about every outing that they've gone to this point. So you're going to need to get to him early and get into that bullpen.
Yeah, you got to get to him early, and I think early is an understatement. First inning, you got to get to him. You can't let him get in the groove because, with that stuff that he has, let a pitcher like him get in a groove, and it's going to be tough to get after him. And then you mentioned Dennis. Yeah, excited for him, and this is what he came to Ole Miss for, right? Be a Friday night starter, and so he's got his shot. Been our best starting pitcher thus far. That, and Mike, obviously for the right reasons puts him Friday night. So it's his time to shine, as you could say. So I'm excited to see him, and I think hopefully we come back Monday talking, with some good stuff to talk about. But you got to play the game.
3.12 ERA, 8 2/3 for Dennis, 9 strikeouts to 5 walks. So that's what Gunnar Dennis is going to bring to the table for the Rebels. He's also given up 10 hits, just 4 runs, 3 of those earned. So he's given up a few more hits than Brecht has, but he's not given up any more runs than Brecht has. So a little bit of a difference there. Not quite as much speed on Dennis's stuff, but he does have some movement, and that will be what he's going to have to take advantage of against these Iowa bats. We'll get into the Iowa bats a little bit later. Saturday is going to be the kind of the crucial game if you're Ole Miss, because you're going to go up against Marcus Morgan. Now, Marcus Morgan, his ERA 4.15 and 8 2/3, 5 hits, 4 runs. He struck out 13 and walked 7. So between the Friday night and the Saturday night guy, you've had 17 walks between them in about 18 innings or so. So you're going to really need to get to those guys. But for Ole Miss going against Morgan, you've got JT Quinn being moved from Friday to Saturday for this weekend. Quinn's got great breaking stuff, but we've seen his fastball be pretty kind of inconsistent this season. Right. He hasn't really had the control that we liked him to have, that he would like himself to have so far this season. If you're going to find it, you got to find it this weekend. Marcus Morgan might have the highest ERA of the 3 pitchers for Iowa. That does not mean he's going to bring some bad pitches into here. This guy's got good stuff too, and he's going to have some quality. He's had a quality start already for Iowa as well.
Yeah, you're right. And then this is another guy that is a pro pitcher. He's gonna be an early round draft pick. He's got 5 pitches, which sounds like a lot. Of course, will he use all 5? Probably not. But it's something, as a hitter that you have in the back of your head, which can get kind of hairy, because for me, 2 was enough. So, yeah. And you mentioned JT Quinn. It hadn't been what he's hoped for thus far, but still early in the season. And like you said, if there's any time for him to find that thing, it'd be nice if we could find it this weekend. Because when you have a staff like this, you got to be able to match them. You got to be able to go inning for inning with them, and while you would, with how the offense has been going, while you can't always rely on offense because it's baseball, hitting is you have hitters going slumps and teams going slumps, which we've seen earlier this year. So we really got to have all 3 phases of the game have to be have to show up to the ballpark this weekend.
Yeah, JT's only made it 6 2/3 so far. His ERA is 8.1. He's given up 8 hits. He's given up 8 runs, only 6 of those earned. He has struck out 12, so he does have some strikeout stuff, but he's also walked 8, and that's where he's really gotten into trouble is the walks that he's issued. Once you start walking guys, it almost always leads to runs. But if he and a lot of those walks had been because of the fastball, the lack of him being able to locate it. If he can figure out how to locate that fastball and then work into that breaking stuff, so establish that fastball in the zone and then throw your swing and miss stuff, because we know he's got it. He's got the swing and miss stuff. He's just got to be able to establish the fastball. Otherwise, they're just going to be sitting on the breaking stuff.
Right.
And that's where he starts getting into trouble is the walks, and then they're sitting on the breaking stuff. So he'll look for a better start this time around. Look to see if he can turn those things around a little bit and get Iowa swinging at a lot of stuff early, try to get a lot of strikeouts, start working into that order a little bit. And then Sunday is going to be the key for this entire matchup on the mound. We know Grayson Saunier is going to go for the Rebels. He's looking better. He had a good outing last time, went 4 innings. He's got that ERA down to this point in the season from where it was. It's 5.87 and 7 2/3, 7 hits, 6 runs, only 5 of those earned. He struck out 10 and walked 5. So again, he's showing those flashes that we know Grayson Saunier has. But his counterpart on the mound this Sunday, my goodness, I was blown away watching the highlight reel. This guy, this kid is going to bring stuff that Ole Miss has not seen, and that is Cade Obermuller. And again, if you haven't heard of Cade Obermuller, you will know exactly who he is. You're going to know a lot about him on Sunday. His ERA, a big goose egg so far this season. And that is through 9 innings, just 4 hits, no runs. He struck out 13, walked only 4. Again, just like the other 2, he's not allowed a home run, and that's where Ole Miss has been making their money here over the last 4 games. But most importantly, he is a lefty, and not only is he a lefty, he is a sidearmer, which you don't see on starters very often. You'll see that out of the bullpen more frequently, but not as much on starters. His stuff's already nasty. You add in the fact that he's a sidearm, and it gets a whole lot harder to pick up.
Yeah, the sidearm, like you said, it's not something you normally see on starters. It's not your submarine coming from underneath, but it's a sidearm for sure, and it's for left-handed hitters, which some of our better hitters are left-handed. So that's a challenge in itself right there. But like you said, no earned runs, and he backs up. He outside of the stats, he's getting overshadowed by two professional pitchers that have their name called come this summer. But another guy, and if you don't get to him early, he's essentially they can all go in cruise control and just let it eat. So you got to get to these pitchers early for sure.
Yeah, and no worries for Cade. I don't think he's going to have any trouble getting his name called at some point down the road either. May not be this year, but he will have his name called if he keeps the stuff he's got. Again, this is going to be a tough guy to hit. I mean, we've seen Ole Miss struggle kind of with lefties so far already this season, and then you're going to throw in this guy. And when I say sidearm, you're right. It's not so much the submarine style like we've seen out of some of these Major League Baseball closers that have that ridiculous sidearm action where the ball looks like it's rising and it's hard to pick it up. It's more like Matt Corral's first year at Ole Miss kind of sidearm action, where it's literally just a straight out to the side and kind of throws it here. But it is incredible the way he does it. His delivery is so hard to pick up. It's going to be very difficult to pick him up. You're going to have patience. but you're also not going to have too much patience with him. You got to try to pick him up early and figure out where those hits are going to come from, because he's not going to allow many of them.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just kind of like you started out the show saying, one of the better pitching staffs we've seen this far, or the best one we've seen this far. And probably no shade to any of the SEC teams, but like you said, it's an SEC caliber rotation. So yeah, I think, and you mentioned Grayson Saunier, didn't mean to neglect talking about that. He's big key this weekend, and when you look around the SEC and, years past, obviously the better pitchers are pitching early in the weekend, but this is a guy in Saunier that, coming into the year, obviously no one knew who was going to go on game one Friday nights, but this was a guy that I'm sure was in the running to, get the ball on Friday night. So he's no, third best, it's more or less of Mike kind of strategically placing these guys, and because a lot of times the game 3 is make or break, either winning the series or keeping you from getting swept, which in the SEC is, as we know, that's it's lethal. Getting swept in the SEC. So he's no slouch of a Sunday guy. So excited to see him get another chance. And last weekend obviously was tougher for him because he was waiting half hour.
Yeah.
Ole Miss was getting hits left and right. So, which I won't complain if that happens again.
No, definitely will not complain about it. I don't think he will either.
Yeah, but just probably not going to happen this weekend. So excited to see him be able to get more in a rhythm and kind of, have a normal start. So.
Yeah, and it kind of the roles are reversed a little bit for the two pitching staffs this weekend, in the sense of Iowa, you want to get to their bullpen because their starters are ridiculous. Whereas Ole Miss, outside of Gunnar Dennis, the other two have struggled a little bit. They've shown flashes of things, and they've also struggled a little bit. But then the bullpen has done their job. They've looked phenomenal. Right. So it's kind of the opposite effect for both of these teams. So, yes, Iowa wants to chase the starters, obviously, like any team would. But then Ole Miss's bullpen is really, really good.
Yeah,
as opposed to Ole Miss, you want to chase their starter because you want to get to the bullpen because their bullpen hasn't been as good. So it's very much role reversal on the pitcher's mound for both of these teams. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Before we get into the offense, we'll finish off the show with the offenses in just a moment. Let's hear from our other two great sponsors. What's going on, guys? It's Austin with Hotty Toddy Talk at the Rebel Walk, here to tell you about two more of our incredible sponsors that are on board with us this year. We're so thankful that they are a part of what the Rebel Walk is doing. The first is going to be Brown Insurance Agency, located at 1328 North Lamar Boulevard in Oxford. Give them a call, 662-234-2941, for all of your insurance needs. Business, auto, home, life, health, anything you need, check them out. Brown Insurance Agency, browninsurance.biz. And our second sponsor that we're so glad to have on board with us this year is Phoenix Embroidery Company. If you're looking for a one-stop shop for all of your embroidery or screen printing needs, check out Phoenix Embroidery Company, 2580 Jackson Avenue, right there in Oxford, 662-473-8085. Give John Eakes and his team at Phoenix Embroidery a call for the most professional screen printing and embroidery work you'll ever need. Phoenix Embroidery Company. And welcome back. Final segment here of Hotty Toddy Talk, talking Ole Miss and Iowa for the weekend. All right, we've spent a lot of time talking about the pitching staff, but it's not just the pitching that's going to be on display this weekend. And if you're Ole Miss, you certainly hope the offense is on display in a big way like it has been. Ole Miss has, like we mentioned off the top, they have increased their overall batting average as a team to 263. Ethan Groff has really started to thrive in that leadoff role, which is where he is just a natural-born player, in my opinion. That's the best spot for him in this lineup. He's up to 333 as of today overall. Leger, 379. Jackson Ross, of course, carrying the offense right now, hitting 438, I apologize, with a 1.56 OPS, 14 hits, a couple of doubles, 5 homers, 16 RBIs. He's been on a tear. Most of those home runs and RBIs have come within the last 4 games. So he's been on an absolute tear. We'll look at the Ole Miss offense in just a moment. Let's start with Iowa, though, because that's the key this weekend. is limiting them. This Iowa team hits the ball well, 304 as a team, and they are led by a guy. Again, if you haven't heard of this guy, you're going to find out this weekend that he's no slouch. Sam Peterson. He leads the team. He's batting 500, and when I say 500, that's not in a couple of bats. That's 32 at bats. He's batting 500. 15 runs, 16 hits, a couple of doubles, 3 homers, 8 RBIs. That might not seem like much, but he is also 8 for 8 in stolen base attempts. He is their stolen base leader. He is their guy on the base paths. This kid just hits the baseball, and he hits it a lot.
Yeah, like you said, he's a slugger for sure. Not only is he just, it's not just singles. He's getting some extra base hits and the stolen bases for sure. So he's the total package for Iowa. So that's a guy that, when you get their lineup card, you circle him. You pick your battles, kind of like you do in other sports. So it's going to be a no slouch again offensively. They, like you said, they can, as a team, hitting over 300 as a team. So another challenge against, again, like I said, another talented team and an SEC caliber team. Obviously they're a Big Ten, and oftentimes Big Ten isn't thought about as, a baseball conference. They're normally a football conference, but there's some teams out there in the Big Ten that can play baseball as well. So another challenge. The biggest challenge we've seen from an offensive standpoint as a pitching staff.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this is a team that was picked first in the Big Ten preseason coaches poll, and Sam Peterson and this offense are a big reason why, along with that pitching staff. And again, it's not a team that you can just go in and say, oh, well, we'll make somebody else beat us, because Raider Tello, 361 average in 36 at bats. He's got a couple of homers, 12 RBIs. Ben Wilms is hitting 308. Kyle Huckstorf hitting 296. On the bench, Reese Moore in 22 at bats is hitting 409. This is a team that has hitters up and down the lineup. They are going to find ways to beat you with base hits, with doubles, with finding holes in your infield, finding the gaps in your outfield. This is a team where, yes, you don't want Sam Peterson to beat you, but at the same time, everyone else in that lineup can beat you at the same time.
Yeah, again, like I said, you got to pick your battles, and it'll be interesting to see how they execute Peterson on the base paths. Again, like you said, 8 for 8, and they're 12 for 15 as a team. So that's something else to keep in mind. And they strike out. I'm not going to say a lot, but I think their walks to strikeouts is about twice as many strikeouts as walks. So it's a team that seems to be aggressive. Again, I haven't watched an Iowa game. I don't know if it'd be possible with them being in the Big Ten to find that somewhere, but you
have to have the old ESPN Plus or whatever, whatever streaming on.
But they look like they're a very aggressive offense. They take advantage of some catchers, which we've kind of seen some teams do this year on us with the freshman catcher. So Smithwick is going to have to, keep that in mind, that they're a team that's going to be aggressive. And, you've seen some teams this year, like I said, I haven't seen an Iowa game, but there have been some teams this year that have kind of done that fake steal, where they take off and then they'll stop, just to get in that catcher, try and get in the catcher's head. So it'll be interesting to see, again, I'm excited for, while it's not SEC conference play as it started, but this feels like a big time series before the start of conference play.
Oh, it's a huge series for conference play. I mean, this could, you don't want to say make or break, but this could do one of two things. If you really look at it, it could build the team's confidence, or it could really bring them down from where they've been, because this is a really, really good team. They have 61 strikeouts to 38 walks, so you almost nailed it. But their opponents have struck out 102 times to just 50 walks. Yeah. So again, back to that pitching staff, ridiculous. 61 to 38. They do have 87 hits overall compared to Ole Miss's 83. So there's a slight edge there, but Ole Miss has 18 homers compared to just 8 for Iowa. Again, a little bit of a different level of competition, though. Let's be real. Iowa's played Auburn. They've played Virginia. They've played some solid ball clubs already this season. So a little bit different level of pitching they've faced so far. But Not to say Ole Miss hasn't played some decent teams, and they've really found ways to hit the ball. They're going to need it. They're going to need that in a big way. This weather this weekend is going to be pretty nice for hitting home runs, particularly on Saturday and Sunday. Friday's still going to be a little chilly, maybe a little gloomy, but Saturday and Sunday should be really nice baseball days at Swayze Field. You want to take advantage of that if you're Ole Miss, and you don't want to let Iowa take advantage of that. But I love that you're key there with mentioning Campbell Smithwick, because a freshman catcher behind the plate. We've seen him. Obviously, he doesn't have the arm strength yet that he will develop the more he plays, and he doesn't have the blocking skills yet that he will develop. We got spoiled with Hayden Dunhurst and Calvin Harris for a while spoiled there. Yeah, we're really spoiled at a lot of positions. Honestly, you look at catcher, you look at the pitching staff Ole Miss had, you look at the infield they have. You get spoiled when you have a team like that for so long. So now you're kind of developing these new players in a new system. So Smithwick's got to develop that. He's going to have to be ready, because Peterson in particular, the ball bounces away a few feet, he's going. You're not paying attention on the pitcher's mound, he's going. He's going to try to steal bases, and he's going to do it a lot this weekend. You got to be ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Like you said, it's you hate to see, and you hate to mention, oh, they're picking on our guy or whatever, but it's just part of it. He's a freshman catcher, and no shade on him. He's a good catcher. He's our starting catcher for a reason, but it's just part of, kind of like in football when you're facing a freshman quarterback. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
you're going to want to hit him a few times in the mouth and get to him. So that's a big key. And then another thing, I'm not sure if you noticed, but in Big Ten baseball, they don't play in front of crowds like they're going to play in front of this weekend. So it's a good opportunity for fans, kind of like in football, where you can bring some energy, and you never know, it could end up turning the game on its head, with the atmosphere that we all witnessed and been a part of at Swayze, which is one of the best in the country, and kind of show them why, and earn some respect there, like so to say.
Yeah, and you want to see a lot of beer showers this weekend.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
You want to see a lot of emotion that gets the crowd involved.
Right.
Obviously, baseball is not like football, where the fans are, in some places are cheering and hollering the entire game. It's not like downs where you're trying to distract the other team on third down, things like that. But you really want to get into it in big moments when their pitchers are struggling. You want to be loud. You want to make noise. You want to really be in their head. Those are the things you're going to have to do, and that can really affect the outcome of this weekend. You'd be surprised what can happen, especially on the pitcher's mound, when you go into a hostile environment. And you look at some of these places like Baum Walker over at Arkansas, for instance, that are just ruthless with their crowds.
Yeah.
You look at Alex Box at LSU. I mean, we've seen it in the SEC. Swayze Field is the best atmosphere in college baseball, and when it's full, when it's packed, and when it's going. And that's what Ole Miss is going to need this weekend. The weather should be good for it. So hopefully we'll see a really good crowd turnout. The other key to the game, in my opinion, or for the weekend, for Ole Miss is going to be, can somebody else step up if it's not Jackson Ross? That's going to be the biggest key. Obviously, Jackson Ross has been phenomenal. The guy's been on a tear. At some point, he's going to come down a little bit.
Yeah,
it's just the law of physics, for lack of a better term. He's gonna come down at some point. He's not going to keep this pace up for the rest of the season. He's not going to hit 15 home runs in a weekend against Iowa. It's just not going to happen. So who's going to step up? You've seen guys like Andrew Fisher really starting to see the ball better now.
Right.
Ethan Groff really starting to come into his own. Ethan Leger, he's been a steady presence at the plate. After that, it really kind of goes downhill. I mean, if you look at the Ole Miss lineup at the plate, it's been very inconsistent. Trayson Hughes finally came out of his shell on Wednesday night. Can he keep that going? Who's going to start? It's going to be Utermark out there. Is he going to get the bat going? Will Furness going to start? Will he finally get it? He's only got 3 hits this season. They're all home runs. Everything else has been a strikeout or a pop out pretty much. Can he get the bat going in other ways, or can he find the home run? I mean, either way, we'll take the home run anytime.
Right.
But who's going to step up at the plate? Are we going to see Luke Hill get the starts at shortstop and him come out with the bat finally? Is it going to be Braden Randall? Who's going to get those starts, and who's going to show up at the plate other than Jackson Ross? Because if it's just Jackson Ross, you're going to have a hard time winning this series.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, this is, while we'll take it while we can get it, he's gonna come back down to earth at some point. What is, kind of the sad truth of it. And it's like you said, it's some of these guys that we've had, top of the lineup getting consistent at bats from, and starting to kind of get some good numbers on paper, but and while also, some of the guys don't have good numbers on paper, you still got to go up there and go for that quality at bat. Because while you might walk or ground out to second base or shortstop, but if a run comes in, hey, quality at bat, and you got to take some team at bats. And you mentioned Trason Hughes, and I think a guy like Luke Hill, it's he hadn't been what we had heard he'd been in the fall and early spring.
Yeah.
And obviously when you have a guy game one playing shortstop leading off, it makes you think, hey, this is, obviously he had, Bianco thinks highly of him. So that's another guy that I think, if we're really going to get this thing rolling, he's got to be a part of it. Trason Hughes has got to be a part of it. And someone, whoever, Furness has been, unfortunately he didn't hit his home run last night. So that home run game, the home run streak ends. But, he's I would assume is going to still assume that DH role, maybe not on Sunday because of the lefty.
Yeah.
But if like they say, if you're going to hit, you've got a spot in the lineup. Yeah. So if you're going to hit the ball and get those quality at bats, you got a pretty good chance of staying in that lineup. But like we saw with Randall last night, getting this start at shortstop, sometimes it just takes, kind of like we saw last in 2022 with Garrett Wood. Sometimes you give a guy a shot and he takes it and runs with it. So I would assume that Luke Hill is going to get those starts at shortstop, but you'll never know.
Yeah, I mean, this is a high caliber team coming in. Obviously, Randall being a freshman certainly plays a role in that.
Yeah.
You would imagine, and Luke got Wednesday night off. So it would be surprising to me if we don't see him starting. But you never know. I mean, you never know what Mike's going to do. But he's batting 179 right now. You got to get that up at some point. You've got to start finding ways to get hits. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets that bat going and kind of stays grounded. His defense has been pretty much fine with a couple of miscues, but early on. But for the most part, he's been there defensively. But the bat has got to get going. Similar with Trason Hughes, his defense is phenomenal. He finally got the bat going. See if he can keep that going. And you mentioned Sunday, obviously Furness probably won't start against the lefty. Be interested to see if it's Bo Gatlin, who's 500 right now in 10 at-bats, got 5 hits. He might start against the lefty, see if he can keep his hot streak going when he does start, get Bo Gatlin in there maybe. Campbell Smithwick, got to get that bat going. I mean, at some point your starting catcher in the SEC has to be able to hit, and Smithwick's just 0.95 right now. So not great on the batting averages so far for some of these guys. But everybody's starting to get there. You're starting to see those flashes, and you're really starting to see the patient at-bats, and that is the key. And that is going to be the key this weekend. In my opinion, probably the biggest keys to the weekend are patient at-bats and Ole Miss getting to the starting pitchers early. If you don't get to the starting pitchers early, it's going to be a long weekend. And if you just go up there and you start getting quick 1, 2, 3 innings, that's not going to be good for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I agree. And I said it earlier, and I totally agree with you. If you let their starting pitchers get those quick 1, 2, 3 innings and get in a groove, it's going to be a long weekend. And
well, the old saying goes, you can only play with fire for so long before you get burnt, and that's
right, exactly. So and like I said, if that's what their pitching staff is going to do to our offense, it comes down to our pitching staff doing the same to their offense. So it's kind of like a mano a mano. They're swinging some good bats. We weren't early, but here of lately we've kind of caught fire. So it'll be. I'm excited, which I think will be a fun weekend, fun to watch. So I'm just really excited. And again, I said it earlier, but it feels like an SEC weekend. So
and hopefully we'll feel that way with the crowd. I mean, we really need that kind of crowd to show up. That's another key, I think.
Yeah, and that's kind of a thing you see, maybe some smaller crowds against, non-conference opponents. But this, while it is a non-conference opponent, it is a conference caliber opponent. And I think our fans are smart enough, Rebel Nation's smart enough to know that. I feel like our baseball fans are some of the smarter baseball fans in the country. When you go to games and, when they're cheering, and they know baseball. So it'll be fun to see the atmosphere this weekend for sure as well.
Yeah, it certainly will. And obviously, Ole Miss hasn't been helped with some of these midweek games starting at 4 p.m. People are still at work. So, but again, these are kind of smaller opponents, for lack of a better term. Even High Point being a weekend series, you saw a decent crowd, but it's High Point. You're not going to get the big SEC crowd. This weekend is the weekend. I mean, you've got the opportunity now to really set the tone early. Friday night's game will go at 6:30, so a good start time as well for everybody. And then Saturday will be at 1:30. Sunday will be at noon. So all good times for crowds to get there. Probably see those Saturday and Sunday crowds maybe kind of arrive kind of late. Get in there a little bit late, particularly on Sunday, but they'll get there, and it'll be hopefully a really good weekend at Swayze Field. All 3 games will be on the SEC Network Plus, so you'll be able to stream them there. Of course, keep up with us over at the Rebel Walk. We'll have all your updates for you as we always do. Real quick note, Coach Yolette McQuinn. I think I always mispronounce it, but it's one of you guys don't have to. But Coach Yo, we're just gonna call her Coach Yo. Picks up her 100th win at Ole Miss tonight, 75-45. They just crushed the University of Kentucky in Rupp Arena tonight. So great win for Coach Yo, Lady Rebels, who are on a roll right now, looking to get into the NCAA tournament as a higher seed than potentially they were expected to be. So we will see how that goes once the end of the season rolls around. So congratulations to Coach Yo and the Ole Miss Lady Rebels. Nick, until after the weekend, you guys will always have our show for you on Monday, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned over at the Rebel Walk for all of your updates, your gamers, everything else following the weekend series against Iowa. Let's hope the Rebels can make it 7 in a row after this weekend. They've got 4 in a row so far. Are they getting hot? Maybe. Don't want to use the phrase just yet. Don't want to put the cart before the horse. Are they getting hot? Maybe. They really need to keep it going this weekend. If they can win, if they can sweep this weekend in particular, that would be absolutely huge. We'll see how it goes. Again, Friday 6:30, Saturday 1:30, and Sunday at noon. All 3 games on the SEC Network Plus. For Nick, he's at Nick Filipich 11 on Twitter. I am at Austin on Air 1021. And at the Rebel Walk, you can follow us over there as well. Check out therebelwalk.com, and hopefully you're getting our new newsletter that's coming out to you to your email inbox. It's got articles and all your information, all kinds of cool stuff on that. So check that out as well. Until next time, this has been your first official edition of Hotty Toddy Talk. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.